Hello everyone. My name is Linda and I want to tell you a story that happened to my friend Christina. I named this story as, "My family had already finished dinner when I came to my parents' 30th anniversary. Mom handed me a $1,500 bill. Sister said, 'You're our ATM.' Everyone laughed, but I tore up the bill and left. 3 months later, the bank called me. Well, let's go. My name is Christina, and I'm 28 years old. I work at a tech company downtown and yeah, I make decent money. My family consists of my parents who've been married for 30 years now, and my younger sister Selena who's 24. We've always been close, or at least I thought we were. It was a Thursday when my parents decided to celebrate their anniversary at this fancy Italian place called Romano's. Mom had been planning it for weeks, talking about how they wanted to do something special this time. She told me they'd reserved a table for 15 people, all the aunts, uncles, and cousins would be there. "Christina, you better not be late," Mom had said when she called me at work that morning. "The reservation is at 7 p.m. sharp." "I'll be there, Mom, I already confirmed with you 3 times this week." But work had other plans. My boss dumped this urgent client issue on my desk at 6 p.m. I tried to leave but he kept saying just 5 more minutes until those 5 minutes turned into 30. I was practically running to my car at 6:45. I walked into Romano's at 7:30, checking my watch and feeling guilty about being late. The hostess directed me to the back where our family table was. But when I got there, something felt off immediately. Everyone was just sitting around talking. The table was covered with empty plates, wine glasses with just drops left, and crumpled napkins everywhere. It looked like they'd already eaten an entire meal. "Hey everyone, sorry I'm late," I said, pulling out the empty chair they'd left for me. That's when I noticed all the faces turning toward me. My Aunt Linda was grinning like she knew some joke I didn't. My cousin Mike was snickering into his wine glass. Even my dad was trying not to smile. Mom looked at me with this sweet expression and said, "Oh honey, we moved dinner up by 2 hours, everyone was so hungry." I stared at her, "What?" "But the reservation was at 7, I confirmed it with you this morning." "Well, we didn't think you'd actually show up," she said casually, like she was talking about the weather. "You're always so busy with work and everything." My jaw literally dropped. "Are you serious? I told you 3 times this week I'd be here. I even left work early." Selena jumped in then, pointing at the table. "Look, there's still tons of food left. You can eat the leftovers." I looked where she was pointing. There were half-eaten breadsticks, some cold pasta in serving bowls, and what looked like the remains of a salad that had been picked through. My stomach turned. "This is crazy," I said. "Why didn't anyone call me about the time change?" Dad cleared his throat. "Chris, we just figured with your schedule." But Mom cut him off by reaching into her purse and pulling out a folded piece of paper. "Since you're here now, this is perfect timing, you can take care of this." She handed me the paper with a smile. It was the dinner bill, $1,500. I looked at the number twice to make sure I was reading it right. "Mom, this has to be a joke." "Oh, I never joke about money, sweetie. You have that great job and no kids or husband to spend money on, this is easy for you." The whole table started laughing, actual laughing. My Uncle Bob was practically choking on his wine. "This is the right call," said my Aunt Linda, Dad's sister. "Older kids need to help their parents, it's what family does." I felt like I was in some weird nightmare. "Are you all serious right now?" Dad leaned back in his chair. "Come on, Chris. You always help us out. It's like our family tradition now. You pay the big bills, we have a good time. Don't break tradition." More laughter from the table. Uncle Bob raised his glass, "To our family ATM." And then Selena, my own sister, shouted out, "Yeah. Our ATM that doesn't need a PIN code." They kept making jokes about how I was their personal bank. About how lucky they were to have someone to pay for everything. About how I should be grateful they even invited me. I sat there listening to it all, and something weird happened. Instead of getting more upset, I started feeling almost relieved. Like finally, I was hearing what they really thought about me. Sure, they were drunk and their filters were off, but drunk people tell the truth, right? I looked down at the bill in my hands. $1,500 for a dinner I didn't even get to eat, at a celebration they moved without telling me. Then I did something I'd never done before in my life. I tore the bill in half, then in half again, and again. "Happy holidays to everyone," I said, standing up and dropping the pieces on the table like confetti. The laughter stopped real quick. I grabbed my purse and walked toward the exit. Behind me I could hear Mom calling my name, but I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. By the time I got to my car, my hands were shaking. Not from anger exactly, but from this weird mix of hurt and clarity. Like I'd just woken up from a really long dream. When I got home, my phone was going crazy. 15 missed calls, 23 text messages. "Selena, you need to come back right now and pay that bill." "Mom, Christina, this is embarrassing, get back here." "Dad, your mother is crying, fix this." More texts kept coming in. All demanding I come back and pay. All acting like I was the one who'd done something wrong. I turned my phone to silent and went to bed. But I couldn't sleep. I just kept thinking about everything that had happened. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just about tonight. I'd been paying Mom and Dad's house bills for 2 years now. Their mortgage, their utilities, their car payments. I'd been covering Selena's rent since she graduated college 6 months ago. She makes money at her new job, but apparently it all goes to clothes and going out. I'd been supporting all of them, and they'd just told me exactly what they thought of me for it. I woke up the next morning feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My phone was still buzzing with messages and missed calls from the night before. I grabbed it off my nightstand and scrolled through the notifications. 47 missed calls. 62 text messages. The messages were all variations of the same thing. "Come back and pay, you embarrassed us, this is your responsibility." I deleted them all without reading most of them. I was making coffee when my phone buzzed with a Venmo notification. A payment request from Mom for $1,500. The note said gift for mother, anniversary dinner. I actually laughed out loud, a gift? They wanted me to pay for a dinner I didn't eat and call it a gift to them? I opened the Venmo app and hit the decline button, it felt amazing. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. For a second I thought about letting it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she screamed before I could even say hello. "Have you completely lost your mind? You embarrassed your father and me last night. We couldn't even look our family in the eye after you pulled that stunt." I poured my coffee and sat down at my kitchen table. "What stunt?" "Not paying for a dinner I wasn't invited to eat." "You were invited, we just moved the time up because people were hungry. And we all decided at the family meeting that you would handle the bill." "What family meeting? When was I invited to that?" "It doesn't matter, everyone knows you can afford it. You make more money than any of us. This is what family does, Christina." I took a sip of my coffee. It was weird how calm I felt. "No, Mom. This is what you've been making me do. But I'm done being your ATM, done paying for everything while you all spend your own money on whatever you want. I'm not your financial sponsor anymore." There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Then Mom's voice got softer, like she was talking to a child having a tantrum. "Honey, you don't mean that. Look, I know you got your feelings hurt last night. Everyone was drinking and joking around. You know how family gatherings get. We didn't mean anything by it. You're being way too sensitive about this." "Too sensitive?" "You moved my parents' anniversary dinner without telling me, expected me to pay for everyone's meal, and then made jokes about using me for money. And I'm being too sensitive? Christina, stop being dramatic. Just transfer the money and we can forget this whole thing happened." I hung up on her. Within 5 minutes, she was calling back. I declined the call and blocked her number. Then I blocked Dad's number, then Selena's. But they didn't give up. Unknown numbers started calling me every 10 minutes. As soon as I heard one of their voices, I'd hang up and block that number too. I must have blocked 8 different numbers that morning. Then my Aunt Linda called from her phone. I almost didn't answer, but I was curious what she'd say. "Christina, it's Aunt Linda. Look, I was there last night. Maybe things got a little out of hand, but that's no reason to cut off your whole family. Aunt Linda, let me ask you something. How much money have you given my parents in the last year? How much of your money have you spent on their bills? Their mortgage, their car payments?" Silence. That's what I thought, but somehow it's normal for me to do it, right? Because I make good money and don't have kids? Christina, you're successful. It's natural that you'd want to help your family. Help is different from being used. Tell my parents and Selena to stop trying to contact me. I'm done with all of this. I hung up and blocked her number too. The call stopped after that. The house got quiet in a way it hadn't been in years. No one demanding money. No one asking me to cover bills. No one making me feel guilty for having a decent job. I spent the weekend cleaning my apartment, something I hadn't had time for in months because I was always dealing with some family financial crisis. I went grocery shopping without worrying about having enough money left over for someone else's rent. I even bought myself a nice bottle of wine. By Sunday night, I realized something. I felt lighter than I had in years. Like I'd been carrying this huge weight around and finally put it down. I thought about all the money I'd given them over the years. The house payments when Dad was between jobs for 6 months. The car repair bills. Selena's college expenses even though she had student loans. Her apartment deposit and first month's rent. The vacation they took to Florida last year that I funded but wasn't invited on. Thousands and thousands of dollars. Money I could have saved or used for my own life. Money I gave because I thought that's what families do for each other. But when was the last time they'd helped me with anything? When I was sick with the flu last year, did anyone bring me soup or medicine? When I was working 70-hour weeks on that big project, did anyone ask if I needed anything? The answer was no, because in their minds, I existed to give, not to receive. I was successful, so I didn't need help. I didn't have kids, so I didn't deserve sympathy. I made good money, so I owed them. Monday morning I woke up without any missed calls or angry texts. It was the first peaceful morning I'd had in years. 3 months passed like that. 3 months of quiet, 3 months of keeping my money for myself. 3 months of not being anyone's personal bank. My savings account grew bigger than it had ever been. I was actually putting money away for the first time since college. I bought new furniture for my apartment. I took a weekend trip to the mountains just because I wanted to. I was finally living my own life instead of funding everyone else's. 3 months of silence ended with a phone call from Chase Bank on a Tuesday morning. I was getting ready for work when my phone rang with an unknown number. "Miss Christina Williams? This is Jessica from Chase Bank's Collections Department. I'm calling about your overdue credit card account ending in 4792. You're currently 2 months behind on payments." I stopped brushing my teeth. "I'm sorry, what? I don't have a Chase credit card." "According to our records, you applied for a Chase Freedom Card 2 months ago. The account shows a balance of $20,847 and you've missed your last 2 minimum payments." My heart started racing. "That's impossible. I never applied for any credit card with Chase, this has to be a mistake. Let me verify some information with you." The application shows an email address that was used for the account setup. The bank employee named the email address, and my stomach dropped. I recognized it immediately. It was Selena's email address. "That's not my email, that email belongs to my sister." There was typing on the other end. "I see. Well, the application shows that email address, along with your social security number and home address." I'm going to email you the application documents right now so you can review them. I hung up and immediately checked my email. The documents came through 5 minutes later. I opened the PDF and saw my name, my social security number, my address, but Selena's email address listed as the contact. Then I noticed something else. At the bottom of the application, there was a signature. It looked like mine, but something was off about it. And the phone number listed wasn't mine either. I scrolled through the account statements. The card had been used at restaurants, clothing stores, electronic shops. Someone had bought a $800 iPhone, spent $500 at some fancy steakhouse, and made multiple purchases at designer clothing stores. $20,000 in 2 months. The application date made my blood run cold. The card had been opened exactly 1 month after that anniversary dinner at Romano's. 1 month after I'd refused to pay their bill and cut them off financially. My hands were shaking as I realized what had happened. When they lost access to my money, they decided to take it anyway by opening a credit card in my name using my personal information. My own sister had stolen my identity and opened a credit card in my name. I called Chase back immediately. "This is Christina Williams. I just reviewed those documents you sent me. This is definitely fraud. Someone used my identity to open this account." "I understand. We'll need you to file a fraud report and provide documentation. In the meantime, the account remains in your name and the balance is still your responsibility until we complete our investigation." "How long does that take?" "Usually 30 to 60 days. I recommend you also file a police report for identity theft." After I got off the phone with Chase, I sat in my apartment staring at those statements. $20,000. Money spent on clothes and dinners and electronics while I was working my ass off and trying to build a life for myself. And they'd done this as revenge for me cutting off their money supply. I grabbed my car keys. It was time to have a conversation with my parents. I drove to their house for the first time in 3 months. Mom answered the door and her face went through about 5 different expressions when she saw me. "Christina, what are you doing here? We need to talk, now." I pushed past her into the living room where Dad was watching TV. He looked up surprised. "Look who decided to grace us with her presence," he said sarcastically. I pulled out the bank documents and threw them on the coffee table. Selena opened a credit card in my name. She forged my signature and stole my identity. $20,000. Mom picked up the papers and looked at them. Her face didn't show any surprise. "You knew about this," I said, watching her expression. "You knew and you let it happen." "Christina, calm down, we can explain." "Explain?" "She committed fraud." Dad muted the TV and turned to face me. "We needed the money. It was the easiest way to get it without bothering anyone." "Without bothering anyone?" "You stole from me." Mom sat down and folded her hands like she was about to have a reasonable conversation. "Honey, you have a good salary, you can handle this. We used the card to pay some house bills, went out to eat a few times, and Selena bought herself some things she needed." "Something she needed?" "There's $800 here for an iPhone. Her old phone was broken." I stared at them both. "Are you insane? This is identity theft, this is fraud. I could have you arrested." "Oh please," Mom said, waving her hand, "don't be so dramatic, it's just money. You'll pay it off in a few months and everything will be fine." "I'll pay it off? I didn't spend this money." Dad leaned forward. "Look, we taught you a lesson about refusing to help your family. Now you have to pay whether you like it or not. Maybe next time you'll think twice before walking out on us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They'd committed fraud as punishment for me not paying a restaurant bill. "This conversation is over," I said, grabbing the documents off the table. "And so is our relationship." "Don't be ridiculous," Mom called as I headed for the door. "We're family." "Family doesn't steal from each other," I shouted back. I drove straight to my friend Marcus's law office. We'd known each other since high school, and I trusted him more than anyone. "Jesus, Chris," he said after reading through everything. This is serious fraud. Identity theft, forged documents, unauthorized use of credit. You could definitely press criminal charges. What are my options? Well, you could go to the police right now and file a report. They'd probably arrest all three of them. Or you could file a civil lawsuit for damages. Or, he leaned back in his chair. We could send them a letter first. See if they're willing to pay restitution before we involve law enforcement. What would you recommend? Let me draft a formal demand letter. We'll give them 60 days to pay back the full amount. If they don't, then you can decide if you want to pursue criminal charges or sue them in civil court. Do it. Marcus worked on the letter for 2 days. It was 3 pages of legal language that basically said pay back the $20,000 or face criminal prosecution and a civil lawsuit. He sent it certified mail to my parents' address. The phone call started immediately after my parents received Marcus's letter. First Mom called, screaming about how I was being vindictive and greedy. Then Dad called, saying I was destroying the family over money. Then Selena called, crying about how she'd only taken a small amount and I was making a huge deal out of nothing. I let them all go to voicemail. When I finally listened to the messages, they were all variations of the same theme. I was wrong. I was cruel. I was tearing apart the family over a little bit of money. A little bit of money, $20,000 was a little bit of money to them. Mom left 3 voicemails that day. In the first one, she was angry, Christina, you're being vindictive and this isn't right. We're family and you shouldn't be doing this to us. In the second one, she tried guilt, your father and I raised you better than this. We're disappointed in you. Family doesn't threaten family with police and lawyers. In the third one, she was bargaining, maybe we can work something out. Call us back so we can talk like adults. I didn't call back. Selena left her own message that night, Chris, come on. It's only $20,000. You make that in like 3 months. Why are you making such a big scandal over this? We're sisters. Only $20,000. Only 3 months of my life working without days off to earn that money. I called Marcus the next day, they're all calling me. Acting like I'm the bad guy here. That's typical in these situations. People who commit financial crimes often try to make the victim feel guilty for pursuing justice. How do you want to handle it? I stick to the ultimatum, 60 days to pay it back or I go to the police and court. Good, don't let them manipulate you into backing down. For the next week, they kept trying different phone numbers to reach me. When I answered one by accident, it was my Uncle Bob. Christina, your parents are really upset. Maybe you should reconsider this whole lawyer thing. Uncle Bob, they stole $20,000 from me. They committed fraud. But your families work these things out without getting lawyers involved. Would you give your family $20,000 if they stole it from you? He got quiet, that's different. How is it different? Well, you don't have kids or a husband. You have more disposable income. I hung up on him. The calls kept coming for about 2 weeks. Different relatives trying to convince me to drop the legal action. All of them using the same arguments. I was successful, so I should just let it go. Family doesn't involve lawyers. I was being too harsh. None of them offered to help pay back the money they thought was so insignificant. Then the call stopped completely. On day 58 of the 60-day deadline, I got a notification on my phone. A Venmo transfer for $20,000 from my father. I stared at the screen. They'd actually done it, they'd paid me back. I immediately called Chase Bank and paid off the entire credit card balance. Then I had them close the account permanently. I never found out where my parents got the money. My best guess is they took out a loan or borrowed from someone else. I didn't really care. It wasn't my problem anymore. After that, there was complete silence. No phone calls, no text messages, no surprise visits. For the first time in my adult life, my family left me alone. Months passed. I saved more money than I ever had before. I took a vacation to Europe by myself. I bought a new car. I started investing in retirement accounts. For the first time, my money was actually mine. Then, right before Thanksgiving, I got an email from Selena. The subject line said family dinner invitation. "Hey Chris," it said, "we're having Thanksgiving at Mom and Dad's house this year. It's going to be just like when we were kids. We're even doing a pirate theme. Hope you can make it, love, Selena." I read it twice and then started laughing. A pirate theme, perfect for a family that had experienced stealing money. I deleted the email without responding. A week before Christmas, a package showed up at my door. Inside was a pair of sneakers I'd been wanting for months, along with an invitation to Christmas dinner at my parents' house. I looked at the sneakers. They were exactly the right size and color. Someone had been paying attention to what I wanted. For a moment, I felt something that might have been hope. Maybe they remembered me as more than just a source of money. Maybe they actually cared about what I liked and wanted. I kept the sneakers but didn't go to Christmas dinner. Instead, I bought small gifts for all of them and had them delivered. Nothing expensive, just token presents to acknowledge the holiday. But I stayed home and had Christmas by myself. It was peaceful. Now, almost a year later, I'm living a completely different life. No one calls asking for money. No one guilts me into paying bills that aren't mine. No one treats me like a walking ATM. My savings account has more money in it than ever before. I'm planning another vacation, maybe to Japan this time. I'm thinking about buying a house. I've heard through mutual friends that Selena has gotten her act together. She took on a second job and started helping Mom and Dad with their bills. Apparently, when they couldn't rely on me anymore, they figured out how to manage their own finances. Who would have thought? I'm not ready to reconcile with them yet. Maybe I never will be. The trust is broken in a way that might be impossible to repair. They didn't just ask me for money, they stole it. They didn't just hurt my feelings, they committed crimes against me. But I don't hate them either. I just don't want them in my life right now. Maybe someday that will change. Maybe someday they'll understand what they did wrong and actually apologize for it. Or maybe they won't, and that's okay too.